English descent, and I became Muslim with Sheikh Abdul Qadir Sufi back in 1970, and have basically followed him up until his recent death. Other than, I mean, that's been what I've been. He has sent me to different places to teach and to start communities in different countries at different times. Other than that, I've been a shoemaker and in carpentry, basically. But then the last years, mostly I've been doing is teaching, to do with the Deen and things around the Deen. In London, well, actually I met him in about 1969, 68, 69, and he introduced me to Islam. And then he went to Morocco and I went to Cornwall, and we didn't see each other. And then we re-met again in London in 1970, and I realized that there was nowhere for me to go but to become Muslim. So I became Muslim with him. Not really. I think that because I'd been, I'm one of those children of the 60s who went through all the things that young people went through in the 60s. And part of that was a kind of a searching. So it was, looking into gurus and esoteric Christianity, Buddhism, and looking all over the place for some sort of, until I actually gave it up. I thought, well, I'm not finding anything. I'm not getting anywhere with this. So I gave up. And I thought, well, I'll just try and do the best that I can do as a human being. And then having, in a way, out of that came, then I met Sheikh Abdul Qadir. And I, meeting him was like I hadn't met another person like him in my life, and how genuinely concerned he was for the person opposite him, So he was like somebody without any kind of agenda or, trying to do anything specific. It was just, there was you and he was genuinely asking, concerned about you. And that was quite an experience for me, just to meet somebody like that. And then obviously he was a Muslim, putting myself there in front of him, and he was this person with this thing, and I was me with basically chaos. I didn't know. I had a young wife and a child, and I really wasn't sure whether I was doing the right job with them, and so I really didn't know where I was going, what I was doing, and where obviously Sheikh Abdul Qadir had a clarity about his own life and about how things were. So it was a question of saying, well, if you put these two things together, and he's in a way he's extending his hand and saying, there's this. Then it was a question of, why not? I mean, I've got nothing compared to that, so let's take it on. And always that, and if it isn't it, then I can always drop it, leave it. Now I do because of him and meeting people like him, like his Sheikh Muhammad Habib, and the people we've met over our lives. Then you've met a lot more people, because that was, remember when I say that, I mean, I'm somebody living in London from an English background, and that kind of interaction then was quite strange for me. But I've met a lot of people. I've met a lot of people who have that. With the first journey to Morocco, which is a totally different culture from when I came from. But then you met all these people who were totally open and generous and caring. And so I said I was looking in different. There was a whole upheaval of the 60s, and people were taking drugs that kind of are altering your consciousness, and so things were beginning to break up in terms of solidity of what life that was being presented to one. So there was there was a questioning that came into you and your own existence. Suddenly, things weren't what you thought they were. So if they're not what you thought they were, then what are they? So then you start to ask a question. And at that time, there were all these things floating around. There's a Maharishi was floating around, and Yogananda, and all these people, and different kind of spiritual paths and so on. So one was looking into all of those things, and I tried a few of them, but not with any kind of deep satisfaction. So that's why I said in the end I gave up. I said, no, I can't find anything here, and I just gave up looking. Well, then having given up, in a way, it came to me. I can't find anything. So then it came and found me. Obviously, you're entering now into something completely new, as something which is totally foreign to your past experience. So you don't really know what it is that you're stepping into, but you've made a choice, and this is the thing which is an important point, because you've made a choice that you are going to leave something and go towards something else. Now you know what you're leaving, but you're not sure where you're going to. So it's a leap of faith, if you like. It's a leap of saying, all right, well, I'm going to do this thing. So you don't really know, So it's a path of discovery, really. It's discovery. It's discovery because you first of all, it's you're not doing this on your own. Sheikh Abdul Qadir is there, and as time goes on, then people are gathering around him and the situation we're in. So you're learning all the time. There's the obvious thing that you do straight away is you have to start learning about your obligations in terms of being Muslim. So you have to learn how to pray. You have to learn, a bit of Quran. You have to learn the things that you can't do and things that you should do. All these kinds of things. So it's a very sort of just a learning process, understanding what to do. Well, you have to, because you. And I've always said to people that when somebody wants to become a Muslim, it's very important that in those first weeks that they learn the basics very quickly. So you learn how to do the prayer and what to say in the prayer as quickly as you can. So you want to get to a point whereby the prayer is no longer this thing out there, it's suddenly yours. It's now yours. You've learnt it. And you know how to stand, bow, prostrate, you know what to say in all the positions. That's important to learn that as quickly as possible. Because also when you take this step, and there's a lot of positiveness that comes with that, and people that help you in taking that step. At the same time, there's a whole other bunch of people who don't want you to take that step. And so, and some people have had great difficulty with that. And then I didn't have too much difficulty with that, but some people are very connected to where they've come from, to the things they're doing, and then suddenly it creates a difficulty for them. Well, that's a hypothetical question, and because each one that comes is going to be different, and so it's not a question, it's not an answer which you're going to give to everybody. So it would depend who's in front of you. But one thing, but generally one would say, well, then don't hang around. Do it. Don't think about it. Do it. Because the thing is, one thing about this is that you will never know from this side of the decision. You have to make the decision to find out what it is. So you can spend, and people have done this. They spend years finding out about it. And you're not really learning anything, because you only really learn when you actually do the thing.
So action.
Definitely. Well, that's what Islam is anyway. Islam is not an ideology or a system. It's a behavior. So you learn by behaving. You learn by doing.
Taking that action.
Yeah. Because also then if you do as I say, if you're learning the prayer, you're learning very practical matters, those connect to your behavior and what you're doing. So you have to connect those two things together. With us, it's always knowledge and action. They're inseparable. Life is a challenge, So life is a challenge anyway. I mean, this is the realm of challenge. This is the realm of difficulty. This is the realm of trial. You know, that's what life is about. So that, I mean, that's going to be happening all the time, and the nature of it is depending on where you are and how you deal with things. So if again, if you go back to the becoming Muslim from a different background, how much you are connected to that background and how much it has reality for you may make the challenge of taking on Islam more difficult, because Islam doesn't banish what went before, it filters what went before. So so if you have good character and good habits and so on, those things come through into Islam.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had other things which are not, Islam stops it. It filters it out.
Yeah.
So only the good comes through. All the good aspects of your character and of your behavior are carried through into your Islam. So if you're, I mean, if, for instance, if you're very attached to beer, and wine and so on, suddenly there's an immediate stop. You can't do that anymore. So, I mean, I remember when I actually, the day I said Shahada, the man I took Shahada with was the Raja of Mahmudabad, rahimahullah. He was going to try and open the Quran to find a name for me, because I said I wanted to have a name. And as he was doing that, he said, "Oh, there's some State Express 555 in there to help yourself to a cigarette." I was a smoker, and I thought, no, I'm doing this thing now. I'm becoming a Muslim. I'm not going to smoke anymore, And there was no challenge for me whatsoever.
Yeah.
You understand?
Did you just stop smoking?
Just stop.
Like that?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh.
Because of this other thing I had. So that was no barrier. I mean, you can trying to give up smoking when you're a smoker is difficult.
It is difficult.
But in that situation, it meant nothing to me at all.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that wasn't a challenge.
Yeah.
I was vegetarian, and the same man invited me to supper one night, and he was having chicken. And it was like, well, if he's having chicken, I'll have chicken. So again, it wasn't a challenge. It was just, there's nothing,
Yeah.
But then, so depends, if you, I was, I obviously, the more that I did that, the more I recognized what the thing I'd taken on, the less difficult there was in leaving behind what I had,
Yeah.
And that's friends as well, because one or two friends came with me. Most people didn't. Well, again, that's what brings that same point up about challenges, because then if you're very connected to those things, and it becomes a conflict, because there are many people who have become Muslim, their parents get very annoyed and even throw them out. Others, like my parents, they didn't mind at all. They think, oh, it's just another phase he's going through. But so, yeah.
Life is a challenge itself, isn't it?
Well, that is about, Allah says that in Quran. This is the realm of testing.
Yeah.
He says, "Do not think you can say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah and not be tested."
Not be tested.
So it's the nature of it,
Yeah.
Because it is not. This is not the permanent situation. It's when you leave this world that you're in the permanent situation. So this is the testing for that. Well, the actions that will take you to where you're going to, in the right way.
Yeah.
It depends though, because we have what is important, what we should be doing all the time, which is not, you wouldn't call it thinking, you call it reflecting. You have to reflect. You have to always reflect on your own life and the situation you're in. That's part of what Islam calls us to, is to reflect. Look at the sky, look at the sun, look around you, look at the people that lived before you, look at the generations, civilizations that have gone. You have to reflect. Whereas thinking can be something else. That can be, you can spiral off into a direction in which the mind will take you, and it doesn't do you any good.
Yeah. So reflecting.
One of the groups of people who will be under the shade of Allah when there will be no shade, which is the last day and the rising, are young people who, because young people are full of life, it's all starting for them, it's all opening for them, the recognition of the opposite sex, and all of these things, and life is there. But the one who is not distracted from Allah and his obligations as a Muslim in that situation, has a high place with Allah. So this isn't something which you think, oh, when you get old, and okay, this is for when you get old. No, this is something, if Allah opens your heart to that understanding of things, if you're 15, fine, you take it on, do that. Because the rush of life that comes when you're young is a test.
It's a test, isn't it?
It's a test.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't mean you don't live. No, it doesn't. This is not about denying all that. No, it's a question of putting things in order.
Having that balance.
Yeah, you don't let all that take you away from the things which are important.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. But that's when you say that, it means that people need to behave in a certain way. Because you don't want the problem with this kind of thing, and talking about legacy and all that, is that it's as though it is somewhere else. It isn't somewhere else. It's with you right here now. And one doesn't want to be distracted from that. So it doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter where you're going to. It matters where you are now. What are you doing now? And that moment needs to be informed by the knowledge of what Allah requires of you.